My name is ABDOULIE SOWE. I'm here as the Serekunda Internet Exchange Point Administrator. I just want to start by giving a short presentation on the IXP. That is the first and only Internet Exchange Point in the Gambia, how it was set up, and where we are right now. Because I know most of you are not aware that actually we have an Internet Exchange Point in the Gambia. Next slide. The Serekunda Internet Exchange Point, abbreviated as SIXP, is the first and only IXP in the Gambia. It was established in July 2014 and is actually a product of the Axis AU project. At the moment, all internet operators are connected to the IXP, making it 7 local internet service providers and 3 international, being the PCH Packet Clearing House, which is hosting the 80 plus top-level domains. And we also have the Team Simru, which is the SAT, the Computer Emergency Response Team. And also, more importantly, we have the Google Cache since December 2014, or basically January 2015. We have the Google Cache. It is registered as a not-for-profit organization and is run by an executive committee. We have a chairperson, secretary, and all the other things. But the daily operations are handled by myself as the administrator and 2 technical administrators, Mr. Mohamed Faye and Mr. Sidi Saho. The SIXP came about through the government, through the Ministry of ICT and the regulator. They were very crucial, actually, Moisi and PURA, in the formation of this IXP. Next. So here I have just some pictures when we were setting it up with the help of Nick from Ireland. And next slide. And that is after the setup. So it's basically 2 racks, but only 1 rack is being occupied at the moment. Next. Now, what we had before we have the IXP, there were 5 operators, internet service providers, including Gamtel, the co-incumbent. The national telco, which is Gamtel, has the monopoly of both the gateway and have a monopoly of the gateway for both data and voice at that time. So all local operators were transiting through Gamtel. And it was getting its transit from Sonatel in those days. But with the coming of the ACE, there were some data gateway licenses given to the other operators, the ISPs. And I guess this was what really necessitated us to have an IXP, because what it means now is that if you are connected to any ISP, you actually use them to transit out of the Gambia. So if you are connected to 2 ISPs to communicate, even though you can be sitting in the same room, you have to go out of the Gambia and then come back, because they all have their own data gateway. So this is the 6P topology. It has been enhanced a little bit though, but this is what we have. We just have some Dell servers, and 1 Dell server, 1 HP server, and some switches there. Next slide, please. Next, are you on the impact of SIXP? Yeah, okay. So the real impact of the 6P was realized when we had the Google Cache. Before, when we just started, the traffic was just around 16 to 19 megabits per second. Then that increased up to 50 megabits per second. Before we had the Google Cache, we went up to 50 megabits per second. And then when we had the when we had the IXP also, It also reduces latency. Latency is like, for example, when you do a ping from one network to another, the delay that it takes. The latency was reduced from 60 to 100 milliseconds to 5 to 10 milliseconds. That's what the IXP achieved. Now, there is a measured performance improvement for internet users, especially with Google cacheable content like YouTube. If you realize the use of good YouTube have improved tremendously since we had the Google cache. Because now all the Google cacheable content, we have them locally present here. So to access YouTube, you basically don't go out of the Gambia. You access it from the internet exchange point. And that is why there have been an improvement. Okay? So now the question is, has that translated into cost saving for users and also for the operators? I put a question mark because for users, I don't think we have realized that much of cost savings, but I'm 100% sure that the operators have realized cost savings because of this. And the reason why I said there is a limited measured performance improvement was because we still have more traffic going through transit than going through the IXP. And the reason is because most of the content that we access in the Gambia here are hosted outside the Gambia. And this is something that we really need to talk about in this room and in many other forums to make sure that we have content that is locally hosted and that will be accessed locally. That will save us money, and it will also save us time, and then we will see greater performance in our use of the internet. Next slide. So at the moment, this was actually taken today. You can see the date on the 4th of December. So right now, our traffic have actually reached 1,000 meg, which is 1 gigabits per second. So you can see with the Google cache from 50 megabits, and now we are talking about 1,000 megabits of traffic. Before we had the cache, when we were negotiating with Google, the total Google traffic from Gambia was around 450 megabits per second. That is aggregated, all the operators. Now, Google has a policy that if you reach 300 megabits, they give you a cache. But none of the operators single-handedly was not reaching that threshold. But together, with the IXP bringing them together in aggregate, they were able to reach that threshold more than 300 megabits. And then that's why Google were willing to actually give us a cache. So we had the cache now shared by all the operators. And you can see now we have reached 1,000 megabits from 450 in 2015, and now we are reaching 1,000 megabits. Now, what are the challenges that we have? The main challenge you have is the lack of local content or content delivery networks in the Gambia. Most of the websites or contents that we access that are even owned by Gambians, they are hosted outside. So how do we make sure that is what we need to be talking about? How do we make sure that now this content is available locally? Because now with the exchange, it doesn't matter which operator you connect to, as long as you are in the Gambia, you can access it locally. So we can have a very good infrastructure locally, but still we will have a bottleneck going out because transit traffic is very expensive. So we have to make sure that we have local content. Also, we don't have locally significant applications like Nollywoods or Bollywoods or things that people access locally. Like if you go to Senegal, all there are these Senewebs and all those things. In the Gambia, that is one thing that we are lacking. Even though we are also trying to connect with Senegal so that we can actually access the Senegal IXP locally. But that we are just at the beginning of those negotiations. Also, most websites are hosted outside due to high cost of local hosting, because it's more cheaper to host a website outside the Gambia than to host it inside the Gambia. So that is something that we also need to look at, to have better internet access. The cost of electricity, cooling, and all those other things actually discourages local hosting. No available carrier-neutral data centers. We don't have any carrier-neutral data center here. The only data centers are owned by companies. And then, you cannot actually host in privately owned data centers. Also, another disadvantage that we have is because we only have one cable landing in the Gambia. And this discourages basically the major players because they always want redundancy. Having one cable has a lot of disadvantages because once that cable is cut or has a problem, then the whole country goes down. And this is something that we really seriously need to look at to make sure that we have at least 2 more landing stations here, fiber. Now, what is being done to mitigate these problems? We are trying to get CDNs like Google Cache, Akamai, Facebook. We are trying to get all this and make sure that they are present in the Gambia locally. So this is one of the strategies that we are doing to make sure that we get them and make them available. We are already successful with Google. They are here. Akamai, we are in advanced stage in the negotiations. And for Facebook, we also have negotiated with them. We already have signed with them, and they already have shipped the servers. We are expecting them by the middle of this month. So hopefully before the end of July, Facebook will also be hosted locally here in the Gambia. So whatever content you will be accessing in Facebook now, you don't need to go out. You will access it locally.
Okay.
And that will improve.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. ABDOULIE. So
It's finished.
wonderful, great. Thank you. Thank you. I'm very much delighted with all the issues that have been highlighted here and the challenges. Due to the time factor, we'd like the rest of the presenters to fast track a bit. Since we have an interactive discussion that is coming immediately after the presentation, we would like to bring out these issues and challenges. So after Mr. ABDOULIE SOWE, we now have Mr. Modlamin Jabi, who is the Director General at Gambia Submarine Cable, to give us a short presentation. But he said he would like to use the podium and
Thank you. This is ICT infrastructure. I'm having 3 micro. Okay. Thank you very much. My name is Mr. Jabi, as he said, and I'm representing the Gambia Submarine Cable Company Limited. Almost all of you are our customers, and almost all of you, indirectly or directly, are our members and owners. The GSC is owned by the government of the Gambia, Gamtel, Gamcell, Qcell, Africell, Comium, NetPage, and Unique Solutions. We have 7 members there. And because of the GSC, we would say we have brought about a lot of transformation into this country. But the question is, are you satisfied with that transformation? That will be part of the discussion that we will be having in the course after the presentation. I was asked to come and make a presentation on access and infrastructure, but I thought it's important to actually put it the reverse. First, I'll talk about infrastructure, then I'll talk about access, which would be in that logical form. The next slide, please. If you look at the ICT environment, every country has a form of a development plan for it. And in that development plan, you look at the ecosystem. One key important component of the ecosystem is the ICT policies and regulations. Believe me, there is one word they normally use and they would normally say, when I was young and I used to like that word a lot, it's called transmogrification. It is a complete change. Our nation, just like the globalization would show at the end of the presentation, our nation has been going through that transformative transmogrification process. Call it transformation. Some civilizedly will call it innovation. And this keeps changing, and we come up with policies, come up with regulations, but we will never be able to cure them. In the discussions, you'll understand why and how. And then the second component of the ICT development, vis-a-vis the infrastructure and access, is the market dynamism. In that, you'll be looking at issues of competition, local competition, and more so the capacity of bandwidth that we have as a country. And the last component is the business environment. How do we use ICTs for our businesses? In simple terms, those three components. Now, in terms of infrastructure, we may be discussing issues like network infrastructure per se, the physical network, then the access to that physical network, and then also the capabilities of those very networks. In fact, the emphasis I will put on the capabilities. What can our networks do for what we want in that business climate or business environment for ICTs? These two are very important, the ecosystem and the infrastructure outlay. Next slide, please. You would see the main targets at the end of the day. It's only three sectors: the society, the government, and the economy. Now, let me play the lawyer here. When we talk about the society, it includes the state, the government, and the economy. But when we talk about the government, that talks about the only three components, then the economy. Because the government and the economy is part of that state. And then the state is that geographical part with all sorts of things, sovereignties and the like. But at the end of the day, it is in that web where ICT is squarely sitting and serving almost all these components. You would see them from real estate, industry, utilities, waste management, safety, health issues, education, and the like. It goes across the board. So the infrastructure and the access should also be targeting some of these components within the society, the government, and the economy. Next slide, please. So when we talk about infrastructure, we are actually talking about two components specifically here, which is the local component of the infrastructure and then the international component. The local one is just all the networks you are seeing. In the interest of time, I don't want to go through it, but the GAMTELs, the GAMCELs, the QCELs, the AfriCELs, the Comiums, the NetPeg, the Unix Solutions, there are various networks that are in this country. I mean, and the equipments they are using, the deployments they are doing, how do you look at those configurations, and what is so essential in those configurations for the last end, which is for you to have that service you so desire from the ICT. The international component is where I am actually serving as the Director General, which is the ACE cable system, and then you have the GSC, which is now having that component of the key capacity divided amongst the members of the GSC. But what is more important here, please, let me just, in simple terms, it's like some 5-6 years ago, we had only 4 or 5, let's say 6 vehicles that would transport all your ICT service needs in this country. It can take you from here to Fatoto. It can take you from here to anywhere in this country. There was congestion, there were problems. But after ACE, that is 5 years ago when ACE was launched, this capacity, because I don't want to go into the technical jargons, we call it the STMs, synchronized time management systems. So the STM1 capacity we had in the whole of this country in those days was not more than 6 STM1s. When ACE came, we today have between 590 to 660 STM1s, meaning it has increased more than how many 100%. So many vehicles parked there. Anybody can have the vehicle to drive on and go anywhere in this country. But remember, we only bring them up to the border, up to the main gateway. Now they have to be taken from there to the different parts of the country. You need the good roads. You need paved roads. What are those roads? You need a proper national backbone where they can take you from the GSC to the rest of the country. That is where the first problem is. And then you might have heard from the presentation he made that we have only one submarine cable access in this country. We need 2 or 3 more. Fine. For the domain side, for the IXPs to function and other things that we need. But there are limitations that would come in the course of our discussions. Now, go to the next slide. You will see the specific figures in the interest of time. Traveling or taking you from here to Paris and the rest of the world, you can see the STM ranges. It's between 569 STM1s and pen match to 666 for those who are technically sound. But for the likes of myself, it only means that 5 years ago I had 6 different types of vehicles to transport you all around in terms of communication. Today at the GSC, I have over 600. But why am I not taking you? Why is it so slow at times? Why do we have breakages? Why do we have downtimes? It's because we have constraints on the national backbone side, not at the main submarine cable side where we carry you up to the GSC. We will discuss those things. Next slide, please. And then you would see now in this particular map, that is it. It's the submarine cable map, just so referred to. In this map, you would see Gambia is connected only to the ACE cable system. Senegal is connected to at least 3 or 4. Many other African countries are connected to more. What advantage do they have? They have more advantage in this ICT environment. But the most important advantage that they have is the soft power. Because today, as we go through this transmogrification process, you will realize that it's no more about nuclear bombs. It's no more about the big size of the armies you have. It is that smart, soft power that you have that makes you great. And then for us to have that, we have to have the right infrastructure and the right access. Go to the next slide. But then, of course, there are problems. I don't have to go through those problems. The first one we came here was the whole program is delayed because of electricity. And then you have so many things, cultural issues, levels of education, understanding the use of these tools, actually their relevance, our own culture, and the like. These are all some of the things that actually impact on that particular infrastructure. But let me go to the most specific thing that may be of interest to you for the discussions. That is the broadband challenges. Go to the next slide, which is actually shared within 3 components. The first component I've already partly addressed is the infrastructure. I mean, do we have issues there? Yes. You have these networks in this country, they need constant upgrade because technology is changing. Interfaces are, more of those interfaces are coming. You need more of the softwares. So every day you keep changing, the business models changes, they impact on your cost and all sorts of things. So really we just have to be on the alert. So that's why I say the broadband challenges, one of them is the infrastructure. Of course we have the legislation and the regulation. Most of the times, not only in the case of the Gambia, regulators are always far behind, technology is far ahead. We keep grabbing, running after them, come up with regulations, address these issues. Our biggest challenge today is the what? The Facebook, the social media. The entire government, the entire society, everything we do now is actually taken to where? Online, in the social media, with some serious impacts. Now, how do we address those challenges? You would see some of them there, citizen protection and the like. And then lastly, but not as a broadband infrastructure challenge, is the issue of electronic service transaction state finances. I would like more of that to be in the discussions for the report. Please, more questions on that. Because is the Gambia ready for online businesses? Is the Gambia really ready for us to see ourselves as an ICT nation? The simple answer is we may be ready in terms of vision, but in practical terms, in terms of things that we need on the ground, we are not. We don't even have the right data protection legislations in this country that we need to look at. Some of the regulatory frameworks need to be looked at. Even the policy issues also need to be looked at. We can have discussions around that. Now we go to access and connectivity, 2 minutes. What are we talking about? You see this whole picture you see down there is all over the internet. It's all about connectivity of the devices. But these devices are doing certain functionalities because people are using them. It's just to arouse your listening. Go to the next slide, please. It's on Availability, accessibility, and affordability. Actually, that is Gambia's problem today. Access to the services is a problem. Access to the appliances sometimes is a problem. But more importantly, access to infrastructure in terms of carriage facilitation is the biggest problem. How do we move on? I think it's also going to be part of the discussions. But maybe you may need to know the characteristics of broadband. Go to the next slide, which is in two sources. Now, I'm only going to say this because I want you to challenge us so that we can discuss. Maybe 7 years ago, most of the traffic, or 90-something% of our traffic in this country, is going via satellite. Today, as I speak to you, there is none. Everything is terrestrial, everything goes through the GSC, and then we take you to the outside wall. So, lastly, let me just say, I think these are things that we would discuss through question time. There are some serious challenges in it. Globalization, as you said in the proposal that I should talk about, please, I want questions on it so that we can address them. And then I just want you to note that to discuss infrastructure and access at a go, within 5 minutes, it's quite a challenge because the components are too broad and too big in terms of their concepts. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Jabi, for that wonderful deliberation. Like he said, the area that he's dealing with is very huge, with a lot of challenges and issues. So he cannot exhaust it within 5 minutes. But nonetheless, we still have some time that we will utilize, especially the questions that are going to come from the floor. Next, we have Madam Bite Cham, who is from the broadband, to come and present to us. Mr. Jabi has made mention of broadband issues here. I think she's the right person now within the Gambian ecosystem to talk about our real problems. You are welcome.
Good afternoon, Mrs. Olichan, one of the telecoms engineers of the National Broadband Project. Sorry, one of the telecoms engineers implementing the National Broadband Project. So today I'm just going to give you a brief background of this project, so you know, like, what we have in the long run. Can you go to the first slide? We have a brief background of the project. This project started on the 1st of September 2017 and is expected to finish 30th December 2018. The project total cost is $25 million. So the project objective is extend the current ECO1 network to increase the geographical scope of access to broadband service to communities currently not served. There was this ECO1 project which was implemented by GAMTEL with support from the Gambia government and Ministry of Information and Communication. That one is already completed and the service are being used. If you can realize that some people now are using this ADSL from here up to Basse, people are accessing the internet through Wi-Fi with the ADSL services. So the other objective is to create a new fiber optic-based distribution network around the country. So I think Mr. Jabi will solve your problem very soon when we finish this project. So we'll upgrade all the ECO1 backhaul and access links, as well as create additional upgrade links and deploy a data center. That will also help Mr. SOWE, I think. Next slide. This project scope, we are going to deploy like 420 kilometers of fiber optic cables, access link, and distributed network from 31 central locations. So from Banjul up to Basse, throughout the country, we have 31 locations that will serve this purpose, central location. So our ECO1 IP, because in the ECO1 we implemented an IP core network. It is being upgraded to a capacity of 40 gigabytes, and this additional 31 sites will be upgraded to 10 gig. They will be linked at a link speed of 10 gig for the access network installed in these central locations. So we create we'll create 107 fiber distribution terminals. This will be the outside network, fiber distribution terminal, to connect these 31 central offices. So from these fiber distribution terminals, we will have 358 fiber access terminals. Those are the fiber access terminals connecting to the fiber distribution terminals to provide connectivity to homes, office, and mobile networks. So the new fiber network will enable Gamtel to connect high-speed broadband, as Mr. Javi said, to access over 5,000 homes, 300 offices, business, and 60 mobile stations around the country. Training also will be provided for this. So the current GBA backhaul ring capacity was like 2.5 gigabits per second during the ECHO 1 project, which is already completed. So this is upgraded to a full design capacity of 10 gigabits per second, and will create an additional fully equipped 10 gigabits per second backhaul ring. So we'll have two 10 gig connecting on different sites. So we have 4 rings. We have West Birkama ring, East A ring, that is, we have the GBA ring connecting all the GBA Banjul up to Serakunda. Then we have the West Birkama ring, that is connecting Sanyang, Gunjur, Burfoot up to Birkama, Faraba. Then you have the East A ring connecting all the way to Soma, then to Farafenya back. You'll see this network diagram. And East B ring, you have another ring connecting all the way to Basse. All of these rings have a design capacity. We are designed at a 2.5 gig, but we are activated at a STM4, that is 622 megabits per second capacity. Though these ones will be upgraded also to a 10 gig ring, which will be added to Banjul, increase Gamtel backhaul capacity to 12.5 gigabits for the rest of the country. Next slide. So we upgrade all the primary access links from the ECHO 1 backhaul rings to Gamtel central location to 10 gig, as I say. All secondary links from Gamtel central office location to be equipped with 1 gigabyte. You know you have this access network. So those one will be equipped with a 1 gigabyte link connecting to the 10 gigabit link. Then those 10 gigabit link will be connecting to the core at a 40 gigabit link. So from this core network, we have the internet gateway also going to ACE. So that one, we have already established the link. It's a 10 gig link going to ACE from Serakunda Exchange, and another 10 gig link going from Banjul to Serakunda, which we can distribute the traffic on both sides. So we have optimized all our power and environment system to cope with the new traffic, just to serve power to these equipments. We've deployed a national data center. This national data center will provide like 200 virtual servers. This virtual servers has a technical spec of like, you can have 4 CPUs and 8 gigabyte memory, 40 gigabyte system volume, and 1 terabyte disk data. This can be used to rent to companies, such as like to provide storage for emails, office, call center, CRM, and like database. We also have like 300 VDI, that is virtual desktop infrastructure, which you can also use as a data storage for all this facility. It has a specs of 4 gigabyte memory, 40 gigabyte system volume, 500 gigabyte data disk volume. So like when we have this, companies can subscribe to this data center and will provide all this service for them. So this is the planned NBN project. As I was explaining, you see the access part. You have fiber to the home, fiber to the business, and fiber to the cabinet, fiber to the office, and you have fiber to the mobile. Then from there, this access network will have a link capacity of 1 gig going to the access routers. So you'll have about 10 gig. They are linked to 10 gig each. Then from there, it goes to the core routers, which is 40 gig within the core, then 2 A's. We have this 10 gig going to A's from Banjul and 10 gig going to from Serakunda. So at the moment now, our disbursement level of the project is at 83.47%, disbursed by the contractor in the form of equipment and services, but nothing yet from the Exim, not from the Exim Bank. We are working closely with like Ministry of Information and Communication and Ministry of Finance. So actual disbursement from January to June now, to June 2018, is like $5,335,290 million. And the undisbursed is $4,132,655 US dollars. This is from Huawei. They are our contractors, suppliers of the equipment. So what we have achieved so far, all these necessary capacities have been upgraded and have been completed. We've done the preliminary acceptance test. All equipments, including power, environment, are in place. We have done the preliminary acceptance test, successfully carried out a standalone system. This is testing like the system functionality and some services, while the implementation of the remaining components are being deployed, especially that is the civil works. Now we are just waiting for this civil work so that we can connect our fiber to the business on this network, new network. So the new data center install part also have been done, and we have issued the preliminary acceptance certificate to our supplier, and more than 50% of the required civil works have been done now. Our key challenges that we face is initial feasibility study was being provided by the contractor. So though there was a review, but we needed more time so that we could have covered covered so many parts of the country. Because we have this national broadband doesn't mean that it has covered every part of the country. Maybe when we implement this, we need to expand more, just as Mr. Gassama said. Like when technology changes, we should change our equipments and so on, do upgrades and so on. So sometimes we face this problem because, as you all know, you know the history of Gamtel and the problems sometimes we are facing. So another challenge is like unavailability of maps of NAWEC underground infrastructure in many areas of the NBN implementation. So during the trenching of the fiber optics, sometimes they cut this NAWEC underground cable. So this one also will disturb NAWEC, and it can add more cost to the project because you have to make payments and so on. Some key regarding the contracts, such as the use of PAC for disbursement to contractor. Like in the ECHO 1, we were using PAC, that is the preliminary acceptance certificate, like test. When we do preliminary acceptance test, like when we install all the equipments, do everything, we do all these tests to check the functionality of this equipment. If we are satisfied, we issue a preliminary acceptance certificate. Then another one is to have a final acceptance test. When everything is ready, that is the time you test the service and so on, to have the final acceptance certificate. So way forward, preliminary meetings of all stakeholders prior to actual commencement of projects. We were having meetings with all key stakeholders, formalization of all important correspondence between key stakeholders, and confirmation of assumptions and engagement with other key stakeholders such as NAWEC, NRA, and local government agencies. Then sensitization of the general public prior to implementation of such infrastructure project. Thank you. I think when this project is finished, we'll increase more connectivity of internet, and people will have more access to the internet at a high speed. Like if you connect to the home, we can have a bandwidth. You can have a bandwidth of 40 megabytes. Like to the mobile, we can have like 300 megabytes per second, and to the business, you can have from 150 to 200 megabytes. So when this infrastructure is ready, I think it will do a great help to this country.
Good. Thank you very much for the deliberation, Madam Bite Cham. As we all had all the issues, the challenges, the question comes back to you when we get to that session. So next we have Mr. Max JONGA of PURA, who is also going to give us an update about what they have been working on, the challenges, and the related issues. You're welcome, Mr. Nja.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, and participants. Once again, welcome to the IGF, or the Gambia IGF. I'm going to take a slightly different route, and in the interest of time, and also due to the fact that a lot of the areas that I was going to talk about have been covered by a few of my colleagues, and leave the rest to the question and answer session, which we are more of a with. Slides right there. I'll start off by giving a brief history in terms of the user numbers and population in Gambia as far as the internet is concerned. You will see that in the last 16 years, from 2000 to 2016 and 17, we've grown from about 11,000 users to currently about 346,000, and an early penetration rate of 9% of the population to 16.9. Actually, in 2017, it's about 18% of the population are online and active internet users, which is one of the higher percentages in Africa, especially in West Africa. Next slide. Sorry, I'm going to just be breezing through this. If anybody wants a copy of the presentation, will be given to you later, just in the interest of time. In a remarkably short time, the Gambia has experienced serious growth in internet access, and infrastructure has also grown significantly. We also know that currently in the formal sector especially, the use of ICT and access in the formal sector is around 90%, which is pretty remarkable. You go to any government department or any formal sector in the Gambia, everybody's using, or they have access to computers and the internet. And I hope making pretty good use of it. Recently, we experienced a serious mobile explosion, especially with smartphones that are internet connected. And it is still growing exponentially. New technologies are being deployed in the Gambia, especially in the last 3 to 4 years. After the advent of 3G, we now have 4G in the form of WiMAX. These are the fixed wireless connections. And then in the last 2 years, we have 2 operators who have launched mobile 4G, the LTE version, which is pretty impressive also. We have experienced quite a growth also in voice over IP and OTT services. And this, as far as our mobile network operators are concerned, is rapidly overtaking regular voice subscriptions. Like they say, data is the new voice. As we all know, sometimes we prefer to call somebody on WhatsApp instead of just dialing directly, which is so annoying if we know that he's right next door. Next slide. My colleague, Mr. Jabi from ACE, also talked about ACE and the huge bandwidth that it brought to our shores. And it also heralded significant reductions in wholesale costs for internet bandwidth. A lot of this has already been transferred to the ISPs and further to their users, because cost of bandwidth has definitely reduced significantly in the country. Encouraged by demand, New technologies are being rapidly deployed. As I said earlier, we have 4G and mobile LTE. And the newer infrastructures that are being deployed will always cater, or will also cater for better access, faster services, as my colleague also just explained about the National Broadband Network and the ECO1 network complementing each other from A's towards the users or the end users. Next slide, please. Oh, sorry. That's technology for you. Okay, issues that we observe, just off the cuff, in the interest of time, again, we're open to answer a lot of the questions that you have, even if they're not covered here. But we have last mile solutions, which are still a major issue. By last mile, we mean from A's, that my colleague has dwelled on, to the ECO1 network, also to the new broadband network. I mean, the thing has to be brought to you, the user, either to your homes or to your offices or to your mobile systems. A lot of people complain, oh, you say you have 4G, you have all this A's capacity, you have all of this, and we don't realize much in terms of our use, improvements in our internet services. These are mostly attributed to last mile solutions as far as the ISPs are concerned. But then also other issues affect this. For example, you can't have been subscribing to 1 meg link prior to A's, and then after A's you have still the same 1 meg link connection, and you expect to have 10 times the speed. When costs go down, at least there should be a way of encouraging user uptake. Another issue is the technology skill set, which is improving rapidly, but still has a lot of improvement, a lot of room for improvement. Comfort with using the internet. A lot of people are not comfortable, not really comfy with using certain websites or certain tools, or don't even know how to do certain things online. Security. Unless you are on the other side or on our side, you'll realize that there are a lot of people who are so insecure about using the internet, fearing that their lives would be just out there, and rightly so. The heavy censorship of yesteryear, I wish I didn't have to say that, it seems to have disappeared, and it's encouraging a little more uptake, and we hope this stays on. And mainly, this would be through engagements like this, where all stakeholders, the Internet Society, ITAG, IGF, the regulator, the ministry, all working together, can help reduce all barriers to access and encourage more uptake of internet, and this can have some serious economic impacts. It has already impacted our economy a lot. Think about going to work today without access to the internet. Virtually, I know a place like my office at PURA, if there's no internet, usually, well, not usually because it doesn't happen much, but if you come to work and there's no internet access, it's like everybody is so gloomy and unable to do anything. Okay, recently, as usual, PURA does a countrywide track to gauge infrastructure deployments and service availability all over the country. And the last countrywide tour we just finished this year shows that 98% of populated areas in the country have at least one operator with 3G services. And this is very good. At least, we should sometimes be able to toot our horns, working with the operators, and we were able to encourage them to go into underserved areas using universal access, and also encouraging them where it makes business sense, they go ahead and do it themselves. 59% of the country, if you have the screen up there, 59% of the country is covered with 4 operators. And locations with only one operator are just 5%. And then locations with no operator at all, populated areas, there's only 2%. This is very, very good. A small map at the bottom, I think might be a little dark for the screen up there, shows 3G deployments across the country for all operators combined. In addition to ACE, my colleague also, Mr. SOWE, mentioned talked about the Serakunda Internet Exchange Point, so I will just skip through that. It's fully operational, and it has brought some significant improvements. Work is at an advanced stage also for redelegation of the .gm, that is our own country top-level domain. Every website with the .gm, is Gambian or should be managed, owned, and operated locally. And we're working with the current domain administrator to redelegate that home to Gambians for us to manage ourselves. This will help in domesticating a lot of the websites that are hosted abroad. We hope that it will also reduce costs of hosting websites and registering domain names. The liberalization process is also in process at PURA. We work with the policymaker, which is Moisi, to facilitate a fair playground for all players in the regulatory field in order to have the improvement that we all yearn for. We at PURA have a light touch, mostly unrestrictive and highly inclusive regulatory regime. For almost everything we do, we engage all pertinent stakeholders, and we end up coming up with guidelines, policies, or regulations that are fair for everybody, including the service providers, the investors, and the end users mostly. Just a few success stories for the past year that we've had. We've seen improvements in access and services and infrastructure, new technology deployments, and there are a few on the way that are pretty exciting. And the digital divide is being reduced. By digital divide, I'm referring to the geographic digital divide, because access is being provided to certain areas that never had these services before. We have mobile money. Everybody knows what that is. Electricity, cash power, and things like that can be purchased online and with different platforms, just on your mobile phone or connectivity on the internet. Mobile banking, online collaboration and social media uptake, self-explanatory. This has also encouraged and fostered a vibrant stakeholder community, like ISOG, ITAG, the UTG, or University of the Gambia, the Internet Association, ICT Association, and we have some new budding associations like the Gambia Cybersecurity Alliance and a few other agencies that are going to prove to be very, very useful. They already are, actually. We have TV and radio, online broadcasting. I think I saw a couple of mics here that belong to iAfrica and some others, who are doing some wonderful work. Like our current session here is being broadcast live. These are all improvements on what we had before, and we just want to see these multiply. Our recommendations to this session to Gambia, the Gambia IGF, is that we are on the right track. We increase or at least maintain the momentum with the ICT stakeholder community engagements. Engage more on policy formulation. We don't leave the policy formulation to just the ministry. We should all chip in, voice out our opinions, voice out our grievances, what we want, our yearnings, our wishes, and have all of these enveloped or engaged when policies are being formulated at that level. Regulatory issues also, PURA is always here to answer your questions, and we're always open to new suggestions and ideas. We are also supportive of quite a few ventures or engagements like this. We provide support, and we always make sure that we're there for the betterment of the ICT sector. A encourage a closer interaction and awareness in the communities. A lot of work is being done, a lot of good work. I believe, as my colleagues already spoke, a lot of you, or at least half of you, knew, just learned about new things that were done and were benefiting people. A lot of people, a lot of our users or the population don't know about what is going on behind the scenes. So it helps for both ends, users to engage the authorities or the stakeholders, and, well, users are stakeholders, but for us as associations and authorities to engage the users themselves and provide more outreach and information. This will only help to develop us better. Okay, I think I'll stop there. I've not gone beyond my time, have I?
You've gone beyond your time, but...
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Anyway, let's clap for these wonderful panelists. Thank you very much, Mas JONGA, for the presentation. I think those who are present here, or those who are watching this session remotely, have an idea of the status of internet development in Gambia with these wonderful panelists here. Now, these panelists that we constituted here, they are from organizations that play a very important role in making sure that the internet is well developed in the Gambia here. So as users, we're the ones using the internet, interfacing with them here. The essence of this session is to engage them with some of your questions that you have with regards to the internet or the challenges that you have as an individual user. On that note, we would like to invite the floor to come up with their questions, but in order to do that, you can join the queue here. You have a mic at the center. Is Pons around? Or Biran is around? You can queue over there and direct your question to any special panelists that we have here. Please, let us engage them. The issues and the challenges that we are going to ask would better help us to map the voices. And anything that is realized here is what is going to be taken to the Regional Internet Governance Forum, to the Africa Internet Governance Forum, to the World or Global Internet Governance Forum. Thank you very much, Biran.
At a remote participation question.
Okay.
This is from the Zoom room that we're streaming from. We're streaming both on Facebook and on Zoom.
Zoom, exactly.
Thanks to our ISOC partners, we're able to have this facility. I have a question from Nena Nwankama, and her question states, her question is on 1 for 2 principle, so which has been adopted by the Alliance for Affordable Internet and the ITU Broadband Commission and many other countries. So the 1 for 2 target for affordable internet means 1 gigabyte of mobile broadband data available for 2% or less of GNI per capita. So how does Gambia want to adopt and implement this? Basically put, what is the concrete target in affordable broadband internet connection? I would leave it to the panelists to decide on who.
Thank you very much.
Takes this question.
Madam Vitacham, welcome.
Okay, the target date for this national broadband project is 31st of December 2018. 31st December 2018. At this, before 31st December 2018, when we finish, we'll start connecting this like fiber to the business customers to have at least like 40 meg from the home to provide services such as IPTV, internet, and even voice. You can have it with these fiber network terminals. I don't know whether it answers your question.
So, are you sure if that happens, then the internet
Okay, for affordability, here I cannot say much. Maybe PURA will help me with, with that one. Yeah, thank you. But I would be grateful if it is affordable to everybody, so that everyone can have access to this internet. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. I believe the person who sent the question wanted to ask about the target of policy and engagement efforts in terms of affordability and availability. PURA is currently and has been for quite a while partnering with the ministry, that's Moisi, the policymaker, in various aspects as far as key stakeholders, like for example, for GAMTEL, who are currently the overseers of the ECO1 backbone, the charging mechanism, so that every other service provider can get access to that at a very reasonable price, and these costs should be translated to the users in terms of reduced prices and services, and reach as well. We're working earnestly and very tirelessly towards ensuring affordability and access. So, I mean, our aim, of course, is 100% access and as much affordability as possible. Can't be free, though. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Max, for that. Yes, affordability is a very big issue, especially among the internet users. But we understand from the panelists here, all of you have a big role to play for the internet to be affordable in the Gambia here. Max is coming in the end of the PURA. Now let's give chance to Mr. Jabi to give us their part with regards to the efforts they are making towards affordable internet access in the Gambia. You're welcome.
Thank you very much. That's a wonderful question from the floor. I think there are many things that need to be done, serious coordination that PURA mentioned. But let's face it, the first biggest challenge we have at the GSC that we really would want for quick adoption and spread of the use of internet in this country, because with only 18%, when the literacy rate in this country is actually above 40%. And then the access we're talking about is 18%. Fundamentally, there is something wrong. We at the GSE, we've been pushing to say that voice has become almost useless. It has no value now. In the next 2 years, it's just going to be a value-added service. Nobody may charge for it. So let us focus our attention on data. Let us freely liberalize this. Still important. So that's the first step. The second step is we need to review our licensing framework. We must have a unified licensing framework in this country if we really want our service providers to deliver to our expectation. But you have a licensing framework where somebody would tell you, this is a fixed license for GAMTEL fixed line, this is a mobile operator license for mobile operator. Those days are over. In our own law, it's over. You have to have a network service license or service provision license, network and service plus application licenses. We develop conditions and terms for that, then that would really boost internet access. And lastly, that I really would just talk about is on the issue of the last mile, she really talked about the digital divide. Let us not focus too much of our attention on the digital divide inside the country. Because by doing that, it's important to do it, but by only doing that, we will really be missing the serious divide that we are left behind. We want our financial institutions in this country to really be down there. We want our mobile operators in this country to really shake the financial world like it happened in East Africa, where you have the M-Pesa, people are paying for everything through their mobile phones anywhere. QCell has started that adoption thing here, but it has limitations in the rural areas. So I think the focus would also be looking at outside from within. It is very key. It will be very important. I think these are some of the three things that may be very, very important. Lastly, it's about deployments. I have listened very carefully to the broadband deployment in this country. I think if you are deploying something like the experience we have with EcoOne, let's debate it. You roll out a network, you put it in place, there is money spent on it, but actually the business model to really recoup your investment has not been seriously factored. If you now want to get that money back by charging high prices for operators who want to have access, some of them would rather go and put up their own microwave links and provide their services. So the business models have to be that friendly and flexible. You put in 100,000, you want to recoup it within 5 years when you can do it within 15 years. I think we need to look at these challenges. These four fundamentals, if we address them among others, will really impact on our adoption, use, and optimal use of the network we have here in this country for internet services. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yes, Mr. Jabe, that's wonderful. In order to have more people online in the Gambia, we also need to have all our services online, especially our government services. This can be very, very helpful because the more traffic we have locally here, the more it can affect the affordability of the internet price here. So on that note, I would like to allow Mr. SOWE, who is working at Serekunda Internet Exchange Point, to tell us what efforts are they making to make so they collaborate with all their stakeholders to have more government services online so that the affordability we're talking about is achieved. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Bakari. Affordability is very key because as much as you have a very good infrastructure, fast internet, if it is not affordable, people will not use it. So whatever we are talking about here, about the ACE, having too much capacity going out, and then the national broadband having access locally within the country, it has to trickle down to the users. And from the IXP perspective, we all know that transit is very expensive because, if you ask the operators how much they are paying to their upstream ISPs, like the telcos in Europe, is very, very expensive. Now, and that cost actually, goes back to the users. So if we can reduce transit, cost tremendously, I think that will have a great impact on the users. And the way we can do that is to make sure that this national broadband that Oli is talking about, if it is successful and we make sure that we have very good infrastructures locally, then, and we have the contents within, because he was talking about the PESA or whatever, all those things are local within those communities. If we make sure that all our transactions are done, most of our transactions are done locally, and we avoid going out, then that will reduce the cost, and that cost, will impact the customers as well. So that is where the IXP comes in. We want to bring all the operators together and all the content providers together, and then they make sure that everything is local. And with what positive things that Oli is saying here, by 31st December, we have to see a reduction in the cost of IT.
Thank you very much, Mr. So, for that. Now we have a group of people who would like to ask questions. Please, can you come forward to the mic and ask your question?
Yeah. I'm Mohamed Sawane from the Gambia.
Welcome.
I am Mohamed Sawane from the Gambia Cybersecurity Alliance, the Secretary.
Can you speak a bit?
Okay. I am Mohamed Sawane from the Gambia Cybersecurity Alliance, and this is my question is directed to Mr. Max JONGA from PURA. Okay. My question is...
Can you please speak a bit louder so Mr. JONGA can hear you?
Okay. My question is based on the net neutrality in the Gambia. What is PURA doing to address the GSM operators having that accessing internet via the GSM mobile data is a big issue, and also the issue of SIM box, and what are those, why is it that those are falling on our radar?
It's about net neutrality? Can you repeat? You were talking about net neutrality, and then what was the question again?
The issue of SIM box, why is it falling on our radar?
Why is it?
Why is it allowed to fall on our radar?
Okay. He's talking about net neutrality. Why is it falling, you mean?
Yeah, the SIM box issue. SIM box issue.
Oh, inbox.
Yeah. No, it's the SIM box. I don't know whether he get me clear. But he understands what I'm talking about. He has a clue.
Okay, thanks for that question. Did he say whether SIM boxing is on the rise?
Yes,
or?
SIM box.
Okay, for those, for the benefit of those who do not understand what SIM boxing is, it refers to an unauthorized or illegal activity by certain people. It's a crime by certain people to take calls from outside the country, use a certain device to forward these calls, bypass our gateway, forward these calls to the end users. You can see what a SIM box call is by when you receive a phone call and it shows an AfriCell number or a QCell number or Comium, and it is an international call. It's like it's emanating from the Gambia. You answer the call thinking it's somebody from within, and it's actually coming from outside. There is a task force in the country comprising of the key people and the security areas as well, who work very hard on these to minimize it, because it has a very negative impact on our country's finances and on the operators especially, because they lose a lot of income. We want these incomes to go to the right people so they can reinvest in their networks and reduce prices for everybody else. If you see anything like that, PURA has a free call number. It's 148, which is free for every network. You can call this number and report the issue by mentioning the number that called you, the time, date, and everything. And PURA will follow up with this.
Yeah.
It was only about SIM boxing, right?
Yeah, and the net neutrality.
Sorry?
The net neutrality. Accessing data is a bit difficult when you're in some parts of the greater Banjul. So what is PURA doing to address those issues with the GSM?
Do you want to come near? I think it's the speakers. It's the speakers, they're echoing, so I can't hear.
Okay. Are you getting me now?
That's a little better.
Okay. The next question is about net neutrality in the Gambia, and what is PURA doing to address the GSM operators having it that accessing internet via the GSM mobile data is a big issue?
Okay, if I understand your question right, you're asking why the operators are concentrating more on data and having a little neglect on voice. Is that right?
No, I'm thinking of the access.
Access?
Yeah. You can be in Tabokoto and you're having 3G or 4G in your mobile phone, and you can have access to the internet.
Yeah. I don't really think, there's a regulatory issue per se right now about net neutrality in the Gambia. The services that are provided by the operators, be they GSM or ISPs, are provided across the board to everybody. I don't think they're doing any market segmentations where they're charging higher to certain markets. The prices that they charge and the access that they're giving are either based on business decisions or the user's request or availability within those areas. But I don't think it's an issue as at the moment where a similar service with the same quality is provided and charged at a certain price to one set of users and another being charged different.
I guess you didn't understand. I'm not talking of the pricing. And what I'm talking of is the access. Like having an affordable internet. Like you pay for a service from Gamcell, QCell, and AfriCell, and you have a 4G in your phone or 3G in your phone, and you're in the greater Banjul area, and you can still access the internet. Okay. What is PURA doing to address that issue? Is what I'm referring to.
I think you're the one who confused the whole issue once you mentioned net neutrality. Service access to everybody. Again, we don't have carpet coverage for all services in the country. Not all geographic locations have the same coverage areas, have the same services provided to them. But where you do have these services, as far as the operators are concerned, they're not in any way discriminatory. If you are with AfriCell or with QCell and you have 3G services, it's not like if you live in Fajara, you cannot get access, but when you're in Banjul, you can get access. Everybody knows that these services are not provided on a carpet coverage basis. PURA is doing a lot to encourage carpet coverage or as much wide coverage as possible, especially if you recall during my presentation, we do network testing all across the country. And this is done annually. This information is provided to the service providers, to the ISPs, and to the MNOs. These mobile network operators. And we've seen some significant improvements because every year you go next, they tell you, oh, last year we didn't have this sort of connection. This year we do. I mean, even within the GBA here, we have 4G deployments, but it's not every geographic location that is covered. And honestly, there are no regulations that say when you're deploying a particular service, you should have it provided across the board to everybody. Especially, we understand you buy credit for 3G, you are in certain areas, you cannot get access to it. That is fine, that is true. It's not fine, sorry. That is true. Just like you go and prepay for your cash power and you don't get electricity. Sorry, I don't know if Nawek is here, but I didn't mean to.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. I guess that question is adequately answered. Okay. You have another question?
No, thank you, sir.
Okay, wonderful. Can we have next person?
Okay. Hello, okay. My name is Ibrahim Asware from the Association of Information and Communication Technology Development in the Gambia. My question is related to access and affordability. Has there been any evidence-based data on the impact of cost on internet access on consumers in the Gambia? This question is very relevant to internet usage. For example, we have SME and other users. If we are to encourage them to use internet for most of the transactions, do we have any evidence-based data to back up our policy decisions? Like a research or a survey that has been conducted. I know that we have information on penetration. You can easily get it from the ISP or from the operators. But has there been any research that gives us an evidence-based data for our policymakers in terms of pricing or to determine the cost?
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. JONGA, you can come in.
Okay, thank you very much once again for that question. If I understand right, you're asking about pricing, the cost model,
whether
the cost structures.
There is any data that is there that people can have access to and have an understanding of the improvement with regards to the cost.
yes, there is data. PURA has a data research unit, our economic research area, that collects data in terms of costs, service availability, and all of these things, and they are readily available at the office. The costs per service that are charged by operators are also kept and updated occasionally. For certain services, we just want to make this clear, especially if it's to do with MNO services, these mobile network operators. We do not have a price control regime that says that prices have to be, prices have this ceiling, they can't go above this. We do have floors where, we can say you cannot charge below this amount, because that is to encourage the viability of the actual business and the service, to make sure that they operate properly and they operate, they stay in business. But we do not determine how much they charge. That's why there is competition. If you are not satisfied with the service or charge from one institution, there are other alternatives that you can go to. If you have any issues or complaints, PURA is always ready to explain or stand in your stead to fight your case.
Thank you very much.
That's right.
Thank you very much. Can we have the next person?
Are all the questions coming to PURA?
Good afternoon. My name is Kitabu Chati, Accountant General's Department. My questions goes to GAMTEL. Wanted to know, since for the fact that 90% of the population is using the internet, as one of the presenters says, so is and our life entirely depend on internet as far as e-commerce is concerned, communication, and other stuff. Does GAMTEL have any other backup plan in addition to the ACE cable, that is the Africa coast to Europe, wirelessly as a means of backup for internet provision? Thank you.
Well, did I hear you say ACE for Orura? PURA rather.
Okay.
Okay. Can I take the question, or why are you addressing it to PURA?
Anyway, to who it may concern.
I am at the GSC.
Thank you.
All right. But I think I can come in here, please. Sure. It's about the internet, to reduce the pressure from our colleague here. Look, we have the ACE cable. Before the ACE cable, we used to have, there is this link between GAMTEL and Sonatel, the fiber link that comes from Senegal all the way to the Gambia, across this the river, the sea, or Banjul, all the way to Casamance. It's in the pairs CNOs, 12, 12, 12, and then the 112 Senegalese are using it, the other 12, I'm just speaking in simple terms. The other 12, GAMTEL is using it, and the other 12, they are sharing. That was to serve as the main route in those days. When ACE came, we are still supposed to keep that and use the ACE link as well. In the event that there is a cut on the ACE cable, you can now use this as a backup. But the problem is you have to pay for that. I remember GAMTEL for an STM4 link, STM1 link, sorry for that. We were asking for that as GSC members, as everybody, so that we can keep it as a backup. But these people were charging for almost some between 40 to 47,000 euros per month. You use it or you don't use it, you pay it. You pay for it. It's expensive. 3 months ago or 5 months ago, Guinea-Bissau wanted to join the ACE cable system. And they were going to build a festoon all the way from Dakar to Bissau. Was going to be a separate link on ACE. We saw it as an opportunity to make sure that the virtual landing station of Guinea-Bissau is built in the Gambia. Once we get that, in case of a problem, we can actually use this as a backup for our own service providers in this country. But of course, it's politics. Senegal has 4, 5, or at least 3 to 4 different submarine cable networks. They successfully convinced Guinea-Bissau that it's better you have your virtual landing station in Dakar than in Banjul, because in Banjul, you have only ACE cable there. It's nothing. If you come here, you have SAP3 and all the others. So we struggled to get it. We ended up not having it. Unfortunately, that is something we're still looking at. But the third option that we are now currently looking at is the option of the orange link from Bissau down to Senegal. If you go to Basse side, these things are there. There is a possibility that we could do it. We could even use the Tigo in Senegal for that. But these are expensive. You have to look at it. Remember, the operations and maintenance cost for any cable system is not cheap. But it must be done because it's for our own information security. Thank you.
I don't think my question is answered.
I thought you said it's about backup.
The backup, wireless backup, because this one is cable. Once the cable is off, that means we all go without internet.
Sure.
And then how much, in fact, even if you should maintain that line, that ACE line there, how much downtime are we expecting?
Ah, okay. Then I think Gamtel is here. They are the operators.
I think if I can get his question, he's saying whether we have a backup for wireless. Okay, for the wireless, we don't have.
For cable. Instead of using the cable, do you have any other alternative that is wireless in case the cable is off? And how much downtime are we expecting?
That is going to international or locally?
Both.
Yeah, locally we have our backup. We have backup because in the presentation, I think I saw discuss about four rings that we have. That is for security. Like maybe if one ring goes off, if we have a problem in one station, in one of the rings, it will take its backup it will join another ring to complete the communication from maybe Banjul to Basse. Like if we have a problem also in Basse, it's only that station that is going off. That will be affected, but the other station will not be affected. So it will use the other ring to terminate the calls. For wireless, we don't have any wireless backup as of now.
I think I now get you. Remember in my presentation I said, before ACE, we were using the satellite. Now ACE came, we're using this. Satellite is very expensive, but the option is still there that operators can look at. Remember, it's the operators that have to really send their traffic on that satellite link. But of course, the issue of backup now, I'll drag PURA into the ring. It is for the regulator to force the operators to have that backup, no matter the cost. Of course, they can negotiate with them. So it is very risky to have the whole nation's everything on one single route, one cable to Europe. The satellite service providers are there. They are ready to give that service to our operators. But the cost is the issue, and our market is just too limited. But this is something worth trying.
Can you hear me? Yeah, very briefly, just to answer Mr. Jabi or for a rejoinder, the regulator PURA does actually have a requirement for all internet service providers in the country to have a backup link, a backup internet link that is not through ACE. I think there's a certain percentage, if I remember right, that we requested. If you've activated, let's say, 500 meg at ACE, you need to have at least 50 meg or 10% of that on a backup scheme. Just in case there are emergencies, you'll just switch to that and provide the basic necessary services. You know, whether it's by satellite or it's by another cable link to Senegal, Sonatel, or anywhere else. But yes, PURA does have that, and it's a requirement, and it is something that we pursue all the time with the ISPs.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Master. Can we have the next person to ask question?
Assalamu alaikum. Rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Good afternoon to every one of you here. My name is Haruna Bari, the Vice Chairman, Janjambure Area Council. My question here goes to the GSM operators in the Gambia. To my notice, when you are within the Combo area here, maybe when you leave Combo, you go to Soma, Bansang and Basse, your internet connection is always faster than those people living in surrounding villages where you know that they are not able to access the H plus and their internet connection is always slow. So what is their stand to see that all those people, they benefit a faster internet connection like any other place? Yes, exactly. That's my question anyway.
Connectivity.
That for me. Oh, okay. Go ahead. Okay. Again, if I understand your question, you're asking about the level of services that are provided in the rural as opposed to the urban areas in terms of internet services or quality. Naturally, these ISPs or service providers would first roll out where it makes business sense. There are certain communities out there, in the hinterland, not to, say anything degrading, but if a village has about 10 homes, and you want to deploy a very expensive base station that could cost in the millions of dollars, and it doesn't make business sense, you're better off doing it in the urban area. But again, like I said during my presentation, PURA works with them to ensure that underserved areas are always provided with services same as in the well-served areas. We encourage them to do this. We use the encouraging method because the Universal Service Guidelines just indicate that every year they need to deploy and serve at least one underserved community. We saw that they're doing way more than that. Just recently, I'm not going to mention names, but the operators, the two, competing operators at the top who are providing 3G services, they have deployed so much across the country in terms of 3G that there's some significant improvement. There's really a marked improvement. We've conducted a test and gone countrywide and have tangible proof of this.
Okay, like that of Janjambure, I can say that Janjambure is a center for the region of Sierra. But in terms of access, sometimes even me myself, I have some proposals that I normally write, but the internet connection is very slow in the areas of Janjambure. So I don't know how best are they going to try and see that they raise it to a faster level.
Yeah, I agree with you for that specific location. I'm sure we have some representatives from the operators sitting here and they're listening. We will do our best to encourage that because we will point out some of these things to the general public and to the operators themselves and make sure that we work with them for these improvements to be implemented. We have a quantitative monitoring system in PURA, millions invested in it, and it's doing some great work showing quality down to a particular even building or area. We can show quality of service as far as 3G and 4G are concerned, where these services are provided. And even, not yet 4G, but voice and data, where these services are provided, the quality. We drill down to the smallest location and we can tell you the quality that's there. And these are published quarterly in the newspapers, and every month we aggregate a comparative report of all the 4 operators, and we send these to them. So they can see where they're doing bad and where they're not. I'm sure a next question would be, what are we going to do about it, where they're failing in terms of these KPIs? Chances have been provided for quite a while for them to get up to par. We've set the KPI or the standards really high, and very soon the enforcements are going to start, with either slapping or fines. Somebody here from the operators wouldn't like that. But we'll make sure that your dollars that you spend on credit and internet fees are, well spent as well.
Thank you. Can we have the next person?
Okay, 1 minute. Okay, he said yes. Sorry, let me say something. Bakari, we just have an intervention from another PURA employee, Mr. Rodin Renner.
Yeah, welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just want to tell some of those asking questions. I think sometimes it's good to be specific, Because like our colleague who was talking about Janjambure, you have 4 operators in the country. So which particular network are you talking about? Because sometimes when we do this countrywide tour and we go, for us, what is important to us at PURA is let there be communication in every part of the country. As long as there is one operator there, for us we think something has been done. Because like my colleague was saying, imagine you go to some areas and you have the Sierra Pate, Sierra, Samba, Sierra. This one have 2 compounds, that one have 3 compounds, that one have 5 compounds. They all scattered around. You will not attract operators to come. But if all of you were together as one big, village, and then the operators see that when they come and invest there, at least they will recoup something gradually. So those are things that sometimes cause these kind of problems. And if you specifically give us which operator you're talking about, maybe we can give you more information, even if it is not here, but online. Or if at all the particular operator is here, they can meet with you and get more information or find out more questions. Then they will to do something about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nicholas. Next, you want to add? Okay.
Answer to that Janjambure problem. Like in Janjambure, we still have ADSL facility available there. If they have their fixed line already in place, I don't think it will be a problem. Because Janjambure, we have the fixed equipment there, which can serve the ADSL, and you can connect wirelessly throughout the office. So maybe if you have, you can just contact us, Gamtel, then we'll provide this facility, because it is available. The ADSL service is available there, and everybody can connect wirelessly.
Okay. Thank you very much. Next.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Fat Sise. I'm representing Ashotek. Last year, I was privileged to lead students from the University of the Gambia School of ICT for a research to Senegal. And the area that we were most concerned on making research was finding out why the Gambia still doesn't manage its own domain here in the Gambia. And we were privileged to meet organizations like NIC Senegal, those that are managing the .SN in Senegal. And they brought it to our attention that there was a time ago that Gambia approached or made a delegation to have the .gm hosted here in the Gambia and managed, but they didn't succeed in it. So I want to know what are the plans? Are we expecting to have the .gm managed very soon in the Gambia? And if it is so, what are the expectations that we will be having when it comes in the terms of the cost of having to register with the .gm instead of the .com? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sise. Now we have Max JONGA to talk to us about the .gm status.
Okay, thank you very much, is it Mrs. or Ms. Sise? The .gm redelegation is actually in high gear. There were attempts made in the past, as you said, for the CCTLD to be redelegated, but I can, and the institutions that are responsible for assigning CCTLD administrations, they have guidelines and regulations on how this can be transferred. There are rules, and it is not easy. For example, for the Gambia, somebody went ahead, or anybody can do that, in those days. He did, and he registered as the administrator for .gm, and he's the current person who is managing it. After a few attempts, he has expressed that he is willing to actually, give it to Gambians on condition that there is a body that is properly constituted, capable, and ready to take over. But it has to be done through ICANN, which is what is going on right now. We have identified all the steps, and I'm part of that committee actually, with a document even written on all the steps that we're supposed to take. As recent as about 3 weeks ago, there was a meeting at the ministry. This effort is being headed by the ministry. And we believe that this time around, it will happen. A consultancy was also conducted on this, on how to go ahead and do it correctly, one time, and successfully. So rest assured, it's being earnestly pursued and it will get done.
Okay, Mr. SOWE, you also want to add your voice?
This .gm redelegation have been going on for so long. You know, I remember since the days when I was in Gamtel, it has been going on, and of recent, Moisi is championing the cause. I am part of the committee that is looking at this, and as Max said, the one who is managing it right now, he expressed his willingness that he wants to give it out. But personally, I seriously have my doubts that he wants to give it out, because he once approached the IXP that he wants to host the .gm, one of the secondary domains, with us. How much are we going to charge him? So when I told him this is for the interest of the whole Gambia, you know, we will not charge you. He said no, he wants to be charged. And, you know, he even, you know, gave a figure. So when I told him, okay, pay a certain amount, then he said, you know, that is too much, he cannot pay that, and then, you know, he have to go and look. So basically, he was just looking for an excuse, because then I think the ministry went up to ICANN, they were at a very high level to make sure they get this. So, you know, he tried to make sure that but up to now, you know, nothing. Even we have, you know, configured a server for him, a virtual server, which he requested. He actually hosting the secondary with the this thing at the IXP, but he is not very willing. And I think another problem that we are having is the fact that Moisi is leading this redelegation, because ICANN does not really want to deal with governments. And there is nowhere where you have this .gm being handled by government. And I think it needs to be led by either civil society or another group, either ITAC or the IXP or any other group that, you know, find it fit. Because the reason that he was giving at first was that there was no infrastructure in place in the Gambia. But when he learned about the IXP, he himself, you know, he confirmed that, you know, the IXP should be able to handle this. And this have great, you know, impact. Because right now, Mr. Chati was talking here about backup. Now, at AFPIF, which is the African Peering and Internet Connection Forum, we have a target by 2020 to make sure that all African traffic, 80% of African traffic to remain local. That is the 80-20. 80% local and 20% international. So if we can achieve that in the Gambia here, so even if the ACE cable goes down, which means 80% of our traffic will still continue to work. But there is a problem here now, because the .gm is hosted outside. And because of that, it will not be able to resolve. That means even though the internet is working locally, the .gms will not be able to work. So we must put our house together and make sure that we get this .gm redelegated into this country.
Thank you very much, Mrs. SOWE, for that. I think we, like he said, we need to put our house together to work towards betterment. 6 years is not 6 days. This kind of forum has been absent here for long. So even according to our timing, we have overstayed or overdone this discussion, but I can understand. Over 6 years, we could not have this forum, so all the issues have been dragging up to date. I want us to clap for these wonderful panelists who have given us their time and energy to share with us. The next session is going to be security in digital economy, a big thing that everybody is concerned about. And we have our able facilitator who is going to take it up from me. And thank you very much, panelists, for your deliberations. And we hope to meet more and more, to talk more, and see how best we can improve from where we stop. And also thank you, Amin Jai, for being the repertoire throughout this session. Thank you. You're welcome.